The Galactic Council had watched Earth for 300 years. They watched humans fight each other with weapons made of wood and stone. They watched them fight with swords and spears. They watched them fight with guns and bombs. They watched humans build weapons that could break their own world into pieces. They watched and they waited, because the Council knew one thing very well. Violent species always destroyed themselves before they could reach the stars. But humans did not destroy themselves. They reached the stars anyway. Admiral Kethra stood on the observation deck of the Council flagship, a massive vessel that had served the galaxy for over 2,000 years. Her scales were the color of deep water, shifting between blue and green as light moved across them. Her 4 eyes moved slowly across the data screens that floated in the air before her, each one showing different information about the human fleet. The humans had sent their first expedition to the disputed zone. This was the test that all new species faced when they wanted to join galactic civilization. The disputed zone was a region of space where 3 hostile species had fought endlessly over resources for longer than anyone could remember. No one could bring peace there. No one had even tried in 1,000 years. "They send only 12 ships," said Counselor Varn. He was a tall creature with gray skin and no eyes at all. He saw through sound waves, sending out pulses and reading what came back. His species had evolved on a dark world where light never reached the surface. 12 ships against 3 empires. The humans are foolish beyond measure. "Perhaps they do not understand the situation," said Counselor Methil. She was small, barely reaching the waist of the other council members and covered in soft brown fur. Her people were scientists, not warriors. They had joined the council by providing knowledge rather than military strength. "We should have explained the dangers better. We should have warned them more clearly." "We explained perfectly," Admiral Kethra said, her voice calm and measured. "The humans understood everything we told them. They chose to go anyway. They are not foolish. They are something else, something I do not yet understand." The council had not asked humans to bring peace to the disputed zone. Such a request would have been laughable. No one expected peace there. They had asked humans to prove themselves as warriors. Every new species had to show they could fight before the council would accept them as members. This was the law of the galaxy, written into the founding documents 10,000 years ago. The strong survived and prospered. The weak did not matter and were forgotten. But the humans had done something strange during the initial meetings. When the council asked them to demonstrate their military capabilities, they asked a question back. They asked, "Who needs our help the most?" The council did not understand the question. War was not about helping anyone. War was about winning, about conquering, about proving your species was stronger than others. But the humans kept asking until someone finally told them about the disputed zone. 3 species had fought there for generations upon generations. Millions had died in the battles. Billions more lived in constant fear and hunger, their world stripped of resources by the endless conflict. The fighting would never stop because no one was strong enough to win a final victory, but everyone was too proud to surrender. "Perfect," the human ambassador had said with a strange light in her eyes. "We will go there." Now Admiral Kethra watched the human fleet enter the disputed zone. She expected them to attack one of the 3 species immediately. That was what warriors did. They picked a side and they fought until one side was completely destroyed. This was the natural way of things. This was how the galaxy had always worked. The human fleet did not attack anyone. They stopped at a small planet called Veth 4. It was a nothing world, barely worth mentioning on any star chart. The 3 warring species had fought over it many times over the centuries, but now it was empty of all life. The ground was poisoned with chemical weapons. The water had been boiled away by orbital bombardments. Nothing lived there anymore. Nothing could live there. "What are they doing?" Counselor Varn asked, his sightless face turning toward the data streams. Admiral Kethra watched the information flow across her screens. The human ships were landing, not crashing down in attack runs, not dropping troops for an invasion. landing gently on the dead world as if they were arriving at a peaceful port. "They are leaving their ships," she said slowly, confusion evident in her voice. "They are walking on the surface." The council watched in growing confusion as human soldiers stepped onto the poisoned ground of Veth 4. They wore protective suits to shield themselves from the toxins, but they carried no weapons. Instead, they carried machines and equipment that the council did not recognize. Strange devices that hummed with purpose. For 7 days, the humans worked on Veth 4 without rest. They cleaned the poison from the soil using machines that filtered out every toxic compound. They brought water from ice asteroids at the edge of the system, melting them and sending the precious liquid down to the surface. They planted seeds from their own world, seeds engineered to grow in harsh conditions, and seeds they had traded for along the way from species they had met. They built shelters from local materials and prefabricated sections they had brought with them. They built water systems to collect and purify and distribute. They built farms with careful irrigation. On the 8th day, the first attack came. Ships from the Krell Empire, one of the 3 warring species, descended on Veth 4 like angry insects. The Krell were insected beings with hard shells that could stop small weapons fire and sharp minds that had been honed by generations of conflict. They had fought for this dead planet many times before. They did not like strangers taking what they considered theirs, even if what they considered theirs was a poisoned wasteland. The human fleet rose to meet them without hesitation. Admiral Kethra leaned forward in her chair, expecting the battle to begin at any moment. But the human commander did something entirely unexpected. She broadcast a message on all frequencies, making sure everyone could hear. "People of the Krell Empire," the human said. Her voice was calm and clear. "We are not here to fight you. We are not here to take your territory or steal your resources. We are here to heal this world so that people can live on it again. When we are done, we will leave. The planet will be free for anyone who wants to live here in peace. We ask only that you do not attack those who wish to farm and raise families on this world. There has been enough death in this place. Let us try something different." The Krell ships hung in space for a long moment, their weapons hot and ready to fire. Then slowly, they turned and flew away. "They retreated," Counselor Methil said in disbelief. "The Krell never retreat from anything. It is against their fundamental nature." "They were confused," Admiral Kethra said thoughtfully. "They did not know how to respond to what the humans said, but they will come back. The Krell always come back eventually. This is not over." The humans continued their work on the surface of Veth 4 as if nothing had happened. More ships arrived from Earth within weeks, bringing more supplies and more workers eager to help. They spread across the dead world, turning poisoned ground green again with their strange determination. And they did something else that no one expected. They welcomed anyone who wanted to join them. Refugees came first. They were people from all 3 warring species who had lost everything in the endless fighting. They had nowhere else to go, no one else to turn to. The humans gave them food and shelter and asked for nothing in return, nothing at all. "Why?" asked a Krell refugee named Sketh. She had lost her entire family in a battle 3 years ago, watched her home burn from an escape pod as she fled alone. She had been wandering space ever since, too broken to fight anymore, too proud to beg for help. "Why do you help us? What do you want from us?" The human she asked was a soldier named Marcus. He was tall and strong, with dark skin and kind eyes that had seen too much suffering. He had fought in 3 wars on Earth before joining the fleet. He had seen terrible things and done things he would regret for the rest of his life. But he had also learned from those experiences. "Because you needed help," Marcus said simply, as if it were the most obvious thing in the universe. "And we could give it. But we are your enemies. We attacked your ships. The Council sent you here to fight us, to prove yourselves against us." "The Council sent us here to prove ourselves as warriors," Marcus said, sitting down beside her so they were at the same level. "On Earth, we learned something important about being warriors. something that took us many years and many wars to understand. The strongest warrior is not the one who kills the most enemies. The strongest warrior is the one who protects the most people. Sketh did not understand his words. In her culture, warriors destroyed. That was their only purpose, their reason for existing. But she was so tired of destruction. She had seen enough of it to last 1,000 lifetimes and more. "Can I stay here?" she asked in a small voice. "You can stay as long as you want," Marcus said with a warm smile. "This is your home now if you want it to be. No one will make you leave." Word spread through the disputed zone faster than any ship could travel. On the dead planet of Veth 4, there was food for anyone who was hungry. There was water for anyone who was thirsty. There was safety for anyone who was afraid. The humans asked nothing from those who came except that they live in peace with their neighbors, regardless of what species those neighbors might be. More refugees came in steady streams. Then traders came, seeing opportunity where others saw only charity. Then families came, families who wanted to raise their children somewhere away from the constant fighting. The population of Veth 4 grew from nothing to thousands in just a few months. Where there had been poison and death, there was now life and hope. The Galactic Council watched all of this with growing confusion and concern. This was not how new species proved themselves worthy of joining galactic civilization. This was not how warriors were supposed to behave. The humans were breaking every rule the Council had established over 10,000 years of guiding the galaxy. And somehow, impossibly, it was working. The Krell Empire sent a proper war fleet to Veth 4 on the 63rd day after the humans had arrived. 50 ships, each one bristling with weapons designed to destroy. The Krell commander was a veteran named Admiral CHR Kanak, whose shell was scarred from 100 battles. He had destroyed 100 worlds in his long and violent life. He had never lost a fight. One small planet of farmers and refugees would be easy prey. The human fleet rose to meet them. Still only 12 ships against 50. The odds seemed impossible. "Human Commander," Admiral CHR Kanak broadcast on an open channel. "You have trespassed on Krell territory. You have stolen Krell resources. You have corrupted Krell citizens with your strange ideas. Surrender now, and we will allow your people to return to Earth in peace. Refuse, and we will destroy every last one of you." The human commander was Captain Sarah Chen. She was small for a human, with short black hair and eyes that had seen too much sadness in her years. She had lost her brother in a war on Earth when she was young. She had joined the fleet because she never wanted another family to feel that kind of loss if she could prevent it. "Admiral CHR Kanak," she replied calmly, showing no fear despite the weapons pointed at her ships. "Veth 4 was dead when we arrived here. Nothing lived on its surface. We have brought it back to life. The people who live here now come from all 3 of the species in this zone. They are not Krell citizens or anyone else's citizens anymore. They are just people who want to live in peace. We will not surrender them to anyone who means them harm." "Then you will die for your foolishness." "Perhaps we will, but we will not let you hurt these people, not without a fight." The Krell fleet advanced with weapons charging. Captain Chen gave quiet orders to her ships. The human fleet spread out in a defensive formation, placing themselves between the Krell and the planet they had worked so hard to rebuild. They powered up their weapons but did not fire first. "They are not shooting," Admiral CHR Kanak observed with interest. "They are waiting for us to fire first." "A sign of weakness," his first officer said eagerly. "They fear us as they should." "No," Admiral CHR Kanak said slowly, studying the human formation with experienced eyes. "I do not think they fear us at all. There is something else happening here." He gave the order to attack. Krell ships opened fire on the human vessels with everything they had. The battle should have been over quickly. 50 against 12 was not a fair fight by any calculation. But the humans fought differently than anyone in the galaxy had ever seen. Their ships absorbed the first wave of attacks without breaking formation. Their shields were strange. designed to take damage rather than deflect it, converting enemy fire into energy they could use. They moved to protect each other with precise coordination, each ship covering its neighbor's weak points as if they were parts of a single body. And when they finally returned fire, they aimed with incredible precision that seemed almost impossible. They did not aim to destroy the Krell ships. They aimed to disable them carefully. Engine after engine went dark as precise shots found their targets. Weapon after weapon stopped working as power systems were cut. The human ships danced through the Krell formation like water through stones, crippling ships without killing the crews inside them. Admiral C.H.R. Kanak watched in growing amazement as his fleet was slowly taken apart piece by piece. In 2 hours of constant fighting, 30 of his ships were drifting helplessly through space. He had lost not a single crew member to death, but he had lost the battle completely and utterly. "Impossible," his first officer whispered. "No one fights like this. No one has ever fought like this." Captain Chen's voice came through the communications system, calm as it had been at the start. "Admiral C.H.R. Kanak, your ships are disabled but your people are alive. We will tow your vessels to safe coordinates where your empire can retrieve them and repair them. We ask only that you tell your leaders what happened here today. Tell them that we did not have to spare your lives, but we chose to. Tell them that we are willing to do the same for anyone who comes against us with hostile intent. We do not want to kill anyone. We want to protect the people who have put their trust in us." Admiral C.H.R. Kanak sat in silence for a long moment, his mind struggling to process what had happened. In all his years of war, spanning most of his long life, he had never been defeated like this. He had never been shown mercy like this. "Why?" he finally asked, and there was genuine confusion in his voice. "Why spare us? We would have killed you all without hesitation." "Yes," Captain Chen said, "and that is the difference between us. We could have killed you. We had every right to by the laws of war. We chose not to. Every life has value, Admiral, even the lives of those who want to hurt us. We believe that deeply. It is the core of who we are as humans. It is why we came here." The Krell fleet was towed to safety as promised. Admiral C.H.R. Kanak returned to his empire with a report that no one believed at first. The humans had defeated a Krell war fleet without killing a single Krell warrior. The humans had let them go with their ships and their honor intact. It seemed like a fairy tale, like a story for children. But the story spread through the Krell Empire like wildfire through dry grass. Some called it weakness and demanded revenge. Some called it a trick and warned against trusting humans. But others, especially those who were tired of endless war that never seemed to accomplish anything, called it something else entirely. They called it hope. The second warring species in the disputed zone was the Methyl Confederacy. They were tall, thin beings with silver skin that reflected light like mirrors and 3 hearts that beat in complex rhythms. They had been fighting the Krell for so long that no one living remembered why the war had started in the first place. They just knew that Krell were enemies who must be destroyed. That was simply how things were. When the Methyl heard about what happened to the Krell fleet, they laughed long and hard. The Krell were weak, they said. The Krell had been embarrassed by primitive newcomers who barely understood space travel. The Methyl would show the entire galaxy how to deal with presumptuous humans. They sent a fleet of 70 ships, even larger than the Krell force had been. Captain Chen met them with the same 12 ships. The conversation was remarkably similar to the first. The Methyl demanded immediate surrender. Captain Chen refused politely but firmly. The Methyl attacked with all their strength. The battle lasted longer this time. The Methyl had learned from the Krell's mistakes and adapted their tactics accordingly. They spread their formation wide to prevent the humans from isolating individual ships as they had before. They attacked from multiple angles at once, trying to overwhelm the human defenses. But the humans adapted too, changing their approach to match the new threat. They fought with a flexibility that stunned the Methyl commanders. Human pilots seemed to know what their enemies would do before they did it, as if they could read minds. Human gunners hit targets that should have been impossible to hit at such distances. Human ships moved together like a single living organism, each one aware of exactly where the others were at all times. 40 methyl ships were disabled, their systems carefully destroyed but their crews unharmed. 30 more retreated at full speed, unwilling to face the same fate. Not one methyl died in the entire engagement. The methyl commander, Admiral Severin, was captured when her flagship lost power during the final phase of the battle. She expected torture when they came for her. She expected death, possibly slow and painful. These were the things that happened to captured officers in every war she had ever fought. This was how enemies treated each other. Instead, she was given food and water and a comfortable room to rest in. A human doctor checked her health carefully and treated a wound she had received during the battle when a console exploded near her. No one questioned her about military secrets. No one threatened her family or her crew. After 3 days of gentle treatment, Captain Chen came to see her personally. "Admiral Severin," she said politely, sitting across from her prisoner as if they were meeting for a pleasant conversation. "Your government has agreed to exchange prisoners. You will be returned to your people tomorrow morning." "Why are you doing this?" Admiral Severin demanded. "What do you really want from us? What is your true purpose?" Captain Chen sat down across from her and was quiet for a moment before answering. "We want peace. That is all we want, nothing more. We want the people of this zone to stop killing each other over things that happened so long ago no one remembers them. We want children to grow up without fear of bombs falling from the sky. We want refugees to find homes where they can rebuild their lives. We want old enemies to become new friends." "That is impossible," Admiral Severin said flatly. "The Krell and the Methyl have hated each other for 1,000 years. You cannot change 1,000 years of history with kind words and comfortable rooms." "On Earth, humans hated each other for thousands of years too," Captain Chen said. "We fought terrible wars that killed millions of our own kind. We did horrible things to each other that still haunt our history books. But we also learned from our mistakes, slowly and painfully. We learned that hate is a choice and so is peace. We learned that enemies can become friends if both sides are willing to try. It is not easy. It takes time and patience and many failures, but it is possible." Admiral Severin shook her head. "You do not understand our history. You do not understand the blood that has been spilled between our peoples, the atrocities committed on both sides." "You are right," Captain Chen admitted. "I do not understand your specific history, but I understand loss. I understand grief. I understand the pain of losing someone you love to violence. Those feelings are the same everywhere, for every species that can feel them. And those feelings are exactly why we must try to find another way. Because the old way brings only more loss, more grief, more pain." She stood up and walked to the door. Then she paused and looked back at her prisoner. "On Veth 4, there are Krell and Methyl living side by side right now as we speak. They work the same fields together. They drink the same water. Their children play together in the gardens we planted. They have discovered something that you seem to have forgotten after 1,000 years of war. They have discovered that they are more alike than they are different." Admiral Severin returned to her people the next day as promised. She gave her report honestly, hiding nothing about her defeat or her treatment. She told them about the battle, about her capture, about how she was treated during her 3 days as a prisoner. Some called her a traitor for speaking well of humans. Some said she had been brainwashed by alien technology. But some listened carefully to her words. Some remembered their own losses, their own dead families and destroyed homes. Some wondered quietly if there might be a better way to live than endless war. The third warring species, the Vethkai Republic, watched both battles from a careful distance. They were the smallest of the 3 powers in the zone, but they had survived for centuries through cunning and ruthlessness when strength alone would not have been enough. Their leader, Premier Kothan, was a cautious being who never made a move without calculating every possibility first. He calculated the humans for many days after the second battle. He studied records of both engagements in detail. He interviewed refugees who had fled from Veth 4, asking them countless questions about what they had seen. He read every report he could obtain, analyzed every piece of data that came his way. Then he did something that shocked the entire galaxy. He sent an ambassador to Veth 4, not a war fleet. "We wish to negotiate," the Vethkai ambassador said to Captain Chen when they met. "Premier Kothan has seen what you have done here. He has watched your battles and studied your methods. He believes that your way may be better than endless war that accomplishes nothing. He is willing to discuss peace." Captain Chen smiled for the first time in many days. It was the first real victory since they had arrived, and it felt different from any military triumph she had ever experienced. "We would be honored to welcome your delegation," she said. "Please tell Premier Kothan that we look forward to speaking with him. Tell him that we will meet him with open hands and honest hearts." The negotiations that followed were not easy. Premier Kothan was suspicious by nature and demanded many guarantees before he would agree to anything. His people had survived by being careful, and he would not abandon that caution even in the face of peace. But the humans were patient beyond anything he expected. They listened to every concern without complaint. They addressed every fear with detailed answers. They made no demands and offered only help. After 3 months of careful talks, the Vethkai Republic signed a formal peace agreement with the humans. They agreed to stop attacking ships in the area around Veth 4. They agreed to allow refugees to pass through their territory safely on their way to the new colony. They agreed to begin trade negotiations that would benefit both peoples. It was the first peace agreement in the disputed zone in 500 years. The Galactic Council watched everything unfold in stunned silence, unable to believe what they were witnessing. Admiral Kethra called an emergency meeting of the full council as soon as the peace agreement was announced. "We must discuss the human situation," she said to her fellow council members. "They have changed everything in the disputed zone. They have created peace where there was only war for 1,000 years. They have done it without conquering anyone, without subjugating anyone, without demanding tribute or territory in exchange for their help. This is completely unprecedented in the history of our council." "They are weak," Councillor Varn insisted, his soundless voice carrying throughout the chamber. "They refuse to kill their enemies. They spare those who attack them. This is not how warriors behave. This is not how strong species act. Eventually, someone will exploit their kindness and destroy them." "Is that what you see happening?" asked Councillor Methil quietly. "Because from what I observe, the humans are winning, not by force but by something else entirely, something we do not have a word for in our language." "Compassion," said a new voice from the entrance. Everyone turned to see a human standing at the doorway to the council chamber. She was older than the warriors they had been watching, with gray hair and deep lines on her face that spoke of many years of life. She wore no uniform and carried no weapons. She walked into the chamber as if she had every right to be there. "Who are you?" Admiral Kethra demanded. "How did you get past our security?" "My name is Dr. Maria Santos. I am a historian and philosopher from Earth. I requested permission to address this council 3 months ago when I first arrived at your station. Your security finally approved me this morning." She smiled slightly. "Earth bureaucracy has nothing on galactic bureaucracy, it seems. We are not so different in that way." "You should not be here," Councillor Varn said angrily. "This is a closed session for council members only. And yet here I am, standing before you. Perhaps that is worth something in itself. Perhaps it means that the rules you have followed for 10,000 years are ready to change." Admiral Kethra studied the human with all 4 of her eyes. There was something about this one that was different from the warriors she had watched fighting in the disputed zone. This one had a stillness to her, a sense of deep patience and inner peace. "Speak then," the Admiral said at last, "since you are already here and we cannot unsee you." Dr. Santos walked to the center of the chamber where all could see her clearly. You have watched humanity for 300 years. You saw our violence and expected us to destroy ourselves as so many species have done. When we did not, you sent us to the disputed zone expecting us to prove ourselves through conquest and bloodshed. You thought you understood us, but you missed something important. You missed what makes humanity truly strong. And what is that supposed to be? Counselor Varn asked mockingly. Our ability to care, not just for ourselves, not just for our families and our nations, but for others, even for those who wish us harm. She pressed a button on a small device she carried, and images appeared in the air around her. Images of Earth history, pulled from their own records. Wars and destruction, yes, but also other things the Council had not paid attention to. People rebuilding after disasters. Strangers helping strangers in times of need. Enemies becoming friends after long conflicts. Hands reaching across borders to pull others up. We have done terrible things in our history, Dr. Santos said. We do not deny this or hide from it, but we have also done wonderful things. We have learned that violence is easy and peace is hard. We have learned that revenge feels good in the moment but creates more suffering in the long run. We have learned that the true measure of strength is not how much damage you can cause, but how much good you can do. Pretty words, Counselor Varn said dismissively. But the galaxy does not run on pretty words. It runs on power, it always has. Does it? Dr. Santos asked. Look at the disputed zone. For 1,000 years, 3 empires fought there for power. They destroyed planets, they killed millions upon millions. And what did they gain from all that blood and fire? Nothing. The zone was a wasteland, no one benefited. Everyone suffered. That is not power, that is just waste. That is war, Counselor Varn said. That is how things have always been. That is how things were, Dr. Santos corrected gently. Now look at Veth 4. In 1 year, humans have turned a dead planet into a thriving colony. Thousands of beings from all 3 species live there in peace together. They grow food. They raise families. They trade goods and share knowledge. They are happy. They are building futures for their children. That is real power, Counselor. The power to create instead of destroy. She let the images fade and looked directly at each council member in turn. You asked us to prove ourselves as warriors. We have done that. But we have proven ourselves as a different kind of warrior than you expected. We fight to protect, not to destroy. We fight to save lives, not to end them. We fight because we believe that every being in this galaxy deserves the chance to live in peace. This is our strength. This is what we offer to the galaxy. And if someone refuses your peace, Admiral Kethra asked quietly, what happens then? Then we defend ourselves and those who cannot defend themselves. We fight as hard as we have to. We are not fools who will let ourselves be destroyed. But we never fight harder than we have to. We never cause more harm than necessary. And when the fighting is done, we offer our hand in friendship to those who were once our enemies. We do not seek revenge. We seek reconciliation. The council chamber was silent for a long moment. For the first time in anyone's memory, the ancient beings who ruled the galaxy did not know what to say. Finally, Counselor Methil spoke up. I would like to propose that humanity be granted full membership in the Galactic Council, not because they have proven themselves as warriors in the traditional sense that our laws require, but because they have shown us a new way. A way that might end the endless cycles of violence that have plagued this galaxy since before our species were born. Seconded, said another counselor from across the chamber, then another, and another. Voices rose around the room in support. Admiral Kethra looked at Counselor Varn. What say you, old friend? Counselor Varn was silent for a long moment, his sightless face unreadable. Then slowly he nodded. I have been wrong before in my long life. Perhaps I am wrong again now. Let the humans prove their way works. Let us see if compassion is truly stronger than conquest. The vote was unanimous. Humanity was welcomed into the Galactic Council as a full member species. But that was not the end of the story. It was only the beginning. 5 years passed. The peace in the disputed zone held firm and grew stronger. What had started on one planet spread to dozens more across the region. Refugees who had been enemies for generations learned to live together as neighbors. Children grew up never knowing the fear that had haunted their parents and grandparents. The Krell Empire, the Methyl Confederacy, and the Vethkai Republic did not become friends overnight. There was too much history between them, too much pain and loss for that kind of quick transformation. But they stopped fighting. They started talking, and slowly, carefully, step by step, they began to trust each other. Captain Sarah Chen became Admiral Chen. She commanded the human peacekeeping forces in the disputed zone, but she spent most of her time not fighting battles. She spent it helping people in practical ways, building schools where children could learn, training doctors to heal the sick and injured, settling disputes before they could become wars. She was happier than she had ever been. Marcus, the soldier who had welcomed Sketh the Krell refugee on that first day, married a Methyl woman named Serena who had come to Veth 4 seeking safety. They adopted children from 3 different species because they had room in their hearts for all of them. Their family became a symbol of what the disputed zone could become if people were willing to try. And Sketh, who had lost everything to war, found a new purpose in life. She became a teacher, helping young beings of all species understand that they did not have to hate each other, that they could choose peace, just like the humans had shown them. Her classes were always full. But the galaxy was vast, and not everyone was ready for peace. On the far side of known space, there was an empire that the Galactic Council feared above all others. They were called the Drath, and they had been conquering and destroying for longer than any other species could remember. They had never been defeated in all their long history. They had never shown mercy to anyone. When the Drath heard about humanity, they laughed louder than anyone had laughed before. Soft beings who refused to kill, weak creatures who thought compassion was strength. The Drath would show the galaxy the truth. They would crush the humans and everyone who followed them. The Drath Armada appeared at the edge of the disputed zone without warning on a peaceful morning. 500 ships, each one a weapon of mass destruction capable of burning worlds. They broadcast a single message to the galaxy. We come to end the human experiment. We come to restore the natural order of things. The strong survive and the weak are destroyed. This is the only law that matters. Prepare to be conquered or prepare to die. Admiral Chen gathered her fleet immediately. In 5 years, it had grown from 12 ships to nearly 200, still vastly outnumbered by the Drath, but far stronger than before. All ships, she broadcast to her crews. The Drath are coming. They believe that violence is the only answer. They believe that compassion is weakness. Today we will show them how wrong they are. But remember who we are and why we fight. We fight to protect, not to destroy. We fight so that others may live in peace. Every life matters, even the lives of our enemies. Do not forget this. The battle for the disputed zone began. It was the most desperate fight humanity had ever faced among the stars. The Drath were ruthless and powerful beyond anything the humans had encountered before. They did not hold back. They did not spare anyone. They attacked the human fleet with everything they had. But the humans were not alone in this fight. For the first time in recorded history, ships from the Krell Empire, the Methyl Confederacy, and the Vethkai Republic fought side by side with humans. They fought to defend the peace they had built together. They fought to protect the dream the humans had given them. The battle raged for 3 days without pause. Ships were destroyed on both sides. Lives were lost in numbers too painful to count. But slowly, impossibly, the tide began to turn. The combined fleet did not just match the Drath in power. They surpassed them, not because they were stronger individually, but because they fought together with a unity the Drath had never seen before. Human tactics combined with Krell ferocity, Methyl precision, and Vethkai cunning, all working as one organism. And they fought to protect, not to destroy. They took enormous risks to save disabled ships, even enemy ships. They captured instead of killed whenever they could manage it. They showed mercy even in the heat of battle. The Drath commander, Lord Voreth, watched in growing disbelief as his armada was slowly defeated. Not destroyed entirely, but stopped, crippled, rendered helpless. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his officers. "These weak beings should have fallen in hours." "They are not weak," his first officer said quietly. "They are something we have never faced before. They fight not for conquest but for each other. They are willing to die not for glory but for the beings beside them. This is a strength we do not understand." When the battle finally ended, 300 Drath ships were disabled and captured. Their crews were taken prisoner and treated with the same compassion that humans showed to all their defeated enemies. They were given food and medicine. Their wounds were treated by doctors who asked no questions. They were spoken to with respect. Lord Voreth was brought before Admiral Chen on her flagship. He expected execution for his crimes. He expected torture for the information he carried. That was what he would have done to a defeated enemy. "Lord Voreth," Admiral Chen said calmly, "you came here to destroy us. You came here to prove that compassion is weakness, but look around you at what has happened. Your fleet is defeated. Your soldiers are our prisoners, and not one of them has been harmed since they surrendered. We have beaten you, but we do not wish to kill you. We wish to offer you a choice." "What choice?" Lord Voreth asked bitterly. "The choice that every being in this galaxy deserves. The choice to change. The choice to put down old hatreds and build something new. The choice to stop destroying and start creating." She stepped closer to him so he could see the truth in her eyes. "The Drath have conquered for thousands of years. What has it brought your people? They live in fear even of each other. Your worlds are military camps, not homes. Your children are raised to fight and die, never to love and live. Is this what you want for your people forever? Is this the legacy you wish to leave?" Lord Voreth was silent for a long time. Then slowly something changed in his eyes. "No," he whispered. "I am tired. My people are tired. We have won 1,000 wars and we are still not happy. We have conquered 100 worlds and we still do not feel safe. We have destroyed countless enemies and we still do not feel strong." He looked at Admiral Chen with something like wonder. "How do you do it? How do you feel strong when you refuse to destroy?" Admiral Chen smiled gently. "Because true strength does not come from what you take. It comes from what you give. It comes from the lives you save, the wounds you heal, the hope you create. Every being we help makes us stronger. Every enemy we spare becomes a potential friend. Every act of compassion ripples outward and makes the universe a little bit better." Lord Voreth returned to what remained of the Drath Empire with these words echoing in his mind. He told his people what had happened. He told them about the humans and their strange way of fighting. He told them about the mercy he had been shown. Some did not believe him and called him a fool. Some called him weak and tried to remove him from power. But many listened because they recognized the weariness in his voice. Many were tired of endless war, just like he was. Many wanted something more than conquest and destruction. The Drath did not change overnight. It took years of difficult work. There were setbacks and failures. But slowly, with human help and patience, they began to transform. They learned to build instead of destroy. They learned to trade instead of conquer. They learned that compassion was not weakness but the greatest strength of all. The Galactic Council watched as humanity's influence spread across the stars like ripples in water. Everywhere humans went, they brought the same message. Every life matters, peace is possible, compassion is strength. Not everyone accepted this message. There were still wars and conflicts in the galaxy. There were still those who believed only in power and destruction. The galaxy was not perfect, and perhaps it never would be. But it was better. It was so much better than it had been before the humans came. And it all started because Earth sent warriors who brought compassion, and the galaxy noticed that. 50 years after the first human fleet arrived in the disputed zone, a statue was built on Veth 4 in the central plaza of its largest city. It showed beings of many species standing together in a circle, humans and Krell and Methyl and Vethkai and dozens of others. Their hands were not raised in war or triumph, but joined in unity. They looked outward together toward a future full of possibility. At the base of the statue was a simple inscription, translated into every language in the galaxy. The strongest force in the universe is not violence, it is not conquest, it is not fear. The strongest force in the universe is compassion. When we care for each other, we become unstoppable. When we lift each other up, we all rise together. When we choose kindness over cruelty, we change the stars themselves. Admiral Chen, now very old and near the end of her long life, came to see the statue on the day it was unveiled. She stood before it with tears in her eyes, remembering all the years and all the struggles that had brought them to this moment. Beside her stood Marcus and Serena and their children and grandchildren, a family that spanned species and proved that love knew no boundaries. "Did we do this?" Marcus asked quietly. "Did we really change the galaxy?" "No," Admiral Chen said, smiling through her tears. "We just showed the galaxy what was possible. The galaxy changed itself. Everyone who chose peace over war, who chose love over hate, who chose compassion over cruelty, they changed the galaxy. We just helped them remember that they could. We just reminded them of what they already had inside them." She looked up at the statue, at the beings of so many different species standing together as one family. "This is what humanity is meant to do," she said. "Not conquer, not destroy, but help others become the best versions of themselves. That is our gift to the universe. That is why we were made." The sun set on Veth 4, the planet that had once been dead and poisoned and was now so full of life. Children of a dozen species played together in the gardens below the statue. Their laughter echoed across the world, the most beautiful sound in any universe. The galaxy had noticed when Earth sent warriors who brought compassion, and the galaxy would never be the same again.